Hey everyone, welcome to the daily analysis for today, October 4th. Definitely some interesting stuff going on in the market today with all the news. Obviously, the dollar got beat up pretty good today, and everything pretty much skyrocketed against it. So that means a lot for what we're going to experience for trading over the next few weeks, in my opinion. So I'd like to tell you all about what I'm thinking, show you a few different pairs that I'm looking at as far as long-term and short-term potential on those, and we'll get into all of that. Before we jump into that, let's take a look at our news tomorrow because, shockingly enough, we have even more news coming tomorrow. Alright guys, so here's our lineup for tomorrow. We have Japanese yen news, that's Bank of Japan press conference. Foreign currency reserves, for the Swiss at 3 a.m. Then we have a little bit of a break, and then at 8:30 a.m. we hit everything with CAD and US. We have building permits, unemployment change, that's Canadian, unemployment rate is Canadian, non-farms for the US dollar, and unemployment for the US dollar. Okay, so a serious lineup here at 8:30, which is probably going to make the markets go a little crazy. So very exciting time to be trading right now, in my opinion, because of all this stuff going on. But also we need to be very careful because the news can certainly affect the trades that we're in a negative or positive way. It's not it's not safe to be in the market with unnecessary risk. So have stop losses. Be wise about your trading tomorrow. But the news should affect the market in quite a significant way. Okay, that's it for news. Let's hit our terms real quick so we can move on to the analysis. And these are our terms for the daily analysis. Basically, we just show you these to make sure that we are in line with the government's rules. And they basically just point out that we're not licensed or qualified to provide investment advice. We're not registered with any securities broker or anything like that. Okay, so if you need to pause it to read through that, go ahead and do that. I'm going to jump into the actual technical analysis at this point. Alright guys, so obviously the dollar was very weak today, and the euro rallied against it, over 100 pip bar. We talked about the range in between this, in between the 38 basically and the 50 level. We mentioned that, it looked like the euro dollar needed to make a move soon because this consolidation can only last so long for the euro dollar. And obviously today was a very clear break of that level with over 100 pips directly to the upside. So what's interesting is that the bar stalled out exactly at our major level right at 1.3. Okay, so I mentioned that there's some short-term possibilities and some long-term possibilities. The short-term possibility is that we could get a strong bounce back to the downside. I think that is definitely a possibility with the euro dollar off a major level, especially if any of the news spikes it down at all. But as far as long-term, we have a very momentum-filled move up on the euro, a pullback, and a very strong round out and a break back towards the upside. So long term, I'm thinking that it's high likelihood that this is going to actually break beyond the 132 level and resume this upward trend. When euro first broke through 1.3, people were talking about the 1.5 area, which I think is still potentially possible, but as soon as the reverse started happening, people were saying, oh, it's going right back down to 1. That's kind of how people get about Forex. But it was just a pullback, which the market does, and looking like it's going to continue now. Now, obviously, the upward move can just be a fake leg, and it could actually be continuing. Obviously, the market could be going either way at any time, and we wouldn't know. But it's looking like a pretty technical trend continuation sign right now. So to me, that's looking long, although be careful with the short term, especially with the news coming out, non-farms and everything else. Definitely be careful with the short term stuff, okay? Let's take a look at the pound dollar as well. And of course, the pound dollar is another pair that we've been watching like a hawk, talking about this reversal potential and if it's going to, break through the 38 and if it's going to break through the 50 and then will it break through the 61? If it gets there, is it going down to 158? We've been cycling through all these possibilities because in reversal setups, it's so much more difficult to expect price to go in a certain direction or to a certain level, let's say. So now it broke about halfway through the 38 level toward the 50 level, and today's bar obviously showing very strong reversal back to the upside. So for pound dollar, you would think that it's at least going to come back and test this area again, even if it is going down eventually. At least you'd expect it to test this area. And so that's what I'm thinking tomorrow. Now, if there's any crazy news that it could end up looking, like a strong bullish bar today and then a total reversal without, a single pip higher than it is right now, But barring some very crazy news, I would think of this we're going to see at least some continuation of this pound dollar to the upside, and perhaps to test these highs where there's all this topping action. Now there's also a good possibility this is like the euro, could be going to higher highs. I think that's very possible. So it's going to depend on how it reacts around this level, of course. But it's looking very similar to the euro with strong movement up, a good pullback towards the 38 level, and a continuation. So pound dollar and euro dollar looking very technically sound to continue rising against the dollar. Dollar weakness very real and very evident in the market today, and of course over the past several weeks and even the past several months. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looking like the euro dollar and pound dollar both are heading for higher highs, and the only way to to trade that is to be very very strict in your rules. Don't just every time there's a bullish bar, don't just jump on it and get shaken out of the market. You got to be strategic and technical if you want to jump into these trends and hope that you're on board for a longer term trend. Actually, you don't want to hope. You want to you want to actually believe and get in there on a real technical sign, not just hope. So with the pound and the euro dollar, it's obviously up to your judgment as far as how you're going to handle the trading. But to me, on the very general view, it's looking like it's heading up. Now, the AUD dollar is a little bit different than the euro and the pound, of course, because AUD has been so weak as of late. What's interesting is that this breakthrough looks like it's only lasted one bar before we got some pausing action and some push back to the upside. Now, today's bar is not a very strong bullish bar. Excuse me. It's not a very strong bullish bar, so I'm a little hesitant to say go long. If it was a bar that looked more like this one, I would be thinking long all the way, because I would expect it to at least come back and test this trend line that it formed before it broke it. So a lot of times trades will break out of the trend line, come back and retest before they go lower. Now the AUD I think is still relatively weak, but it's difficult because the AUD is going against the dollar in this pair, of course, which is also very weak. So maybe the thing with the AUD is just go ahead and trade the AUD weakness, but not against the dollar, because the dollar is so weak as well. With that said, if there's bullish momentum forming on the AUD dollar, I would still take the AUD long against this dollar, just based on the technical sign. Right now, we're not quite there, but we have about an hour before the market closes today, so it'll be interesting to see how this shapes up, and if this does go ahead and make a retest towards this level before continuing down. So keep an eye on that one for sure. Speaking of trading that pound, or excuse me, that AUD weakness, you can see that the pound AUD after breaking the level has definitely continued up. Not to the pace, obviously, of this bar that broke it originally, but certainly moving up well since the close of this bar over the past 2 days. It's moved about 90 pips, so that's a decent move and something that is worth taking advantage of if you're watching the pound AUD. Now, we didn't take the pound AUD; we decided to take the pound yen instead, because the bounce was off a trend line, whereas this one was just a break of a consolidation period. So we took the pound yen rather than the pound AUD, but both seem to have good potential continuation because of all this pound strength behind these other currencies. The pound has been stronger than almost every currency except for the euro recently. So interesting that that's how it's shaping out. But yeah, pound AUD looking like strong continuation. Euro AUD, of course, is definitely the same situation. So keep an eye on both of those AUD crosses there. Speaking of the pound yen, let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Okay, so the pound yen, like we've mentioned, we're long on this on the copier, and it's bouncing off some trend line action here. We got in a long time ago, like 3 or 4 days ago, and it's just been consolidating right on top of that trend line. So what I keep saying is, I'm waiting for the burst up to continue this trend. Well, today we got a pretty good burst of that. So looking like it is moving upward. That put us up a few percent on this trade. So that's a very good thing for us, obviously. Now with the pound yen, again, this does obviously assume that there's no really crazy news, but it's looking like it's going to try to challenge this higher high in this trend line. So I would expect it to come up and maybe come in an area where it's testing both the horizontal and the trend line level. That's often where the market tends to go. So I'm pretty confident in the pound yen continuation. It might continue trying to fake us out with this trend line, but I think that it is wanting to head up eventually and at least come up and test the trend line in the horizontal line that we see here. I think our target is right around 128.2. So keeping an eye on that level and expecting pound yen to show some strong continuation. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get some news that helps us in that direction, and get out with a 5 or 6% gain on the pound yen. which would be a great gain for us. Speaking of trades that were long on, let's check out the euro pound as well. And the euro pound is one that we took long also off the trend line here. Very good trend line forming. A bounce off the horizontal and the trend line, like I just mentioned, could happen on the pound yen to the other side. But we took the bounce off here, up 4 days in a row, which is great. Again, the target for us is around 81.05, right at the top here, hoping that it at least comes up to test the previous high. So euro pound is looking good. Now it's up technically 5 if you include the pin bar here, 5 bullish days in a row. So it's likely that there's going to be some pullback or some stalling before it continues, but still we're very confident in the euro pound's potential to go ahead and continue this uptrend and make higher highs as it goes. So it's looking like a strong channel, and we're hoping to ride that one out and take advantage. I believe if the euro pound and the pound yen hit our targets on those trades on the copier, that it'll be like a 12% win if they hit the full targets on both of those. So we're very excited about that to start off the month of October, and we're really looking forward to taking advantage of these trends. Okay, so that's basically all I want to talk about today. Again, I think it's some great trading opportunities today, both short-term and long-term with some of these pairs. So very much looking forward to the potential over the month of October. I think it could be a great trending month, and although I won't be here for part of it, I'll be on my honeymoon, so I won't be missing trading too much. But still, I think the month of October is going to be a good month for us and for trading in general. All right, guys, thanks so much for stopping by and watching the analysis. I appreciate your loyalty to us, and if you have any questions or comments or thoughts, please feel free to go ahead and leave those below. And if you don't mind using the tweet and Facebook buttons on the side of the post to share it. All right, guys, thanks. I'll talk to you soon.